Hey everyone, welcome back. You know how much I love a good secret? And the text you send over, the secret of the golden flower? Well, it sounds promising.
Oh, it's a classic for a reason, and not some quick fix, this one. This is a real deep dive, if you'll pardon the pun. Buddhist and Taoist practices for finding real mental clarity. It's fascinating stuff.
And that's why we're here, to unpack some of that ancient wisdom, right? I mean, who couldn't use a little more peace these days? It's like having a whole toolbox of techniques passed down for centuries just waiting to be discovered.
Exactly. And it can be a bit dense, that's true.
Yeah,
But think of us as, well, translators. We're here to break it down into those core ideas, the practices you can actually use.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
So, okay, first things first, what is this golden flower they keep talking about? It
Right.
sounds a little like something out of a fantasy novel, I gotta say.
Well, imagine this. A seed of pure awareness right there inside you, just waiting to unfold into something amazing. That's the golden flower, the blossoming of your mind's potential.
Okay, I'm intrigued. But why golden flower? What's the connection?
It's more than just poetic imagery. Think of gold as the light of awareness, that clarity that's already in each of us, they say. And the flower, that's the unfolding, the awakening of that light through these practices.
So it's like there's this part of us that's already, I don't know, kind of luminous, but maybe hidden under all our everyday thoughts and worries. And this practice is about bringing it out.
You got it. And here's the really interesting part. It's not just for one specific religion or belief system.
Oh, really? I have to admit, I kind of assumed this was a Buddhist and Taoist thing.
Well, it's definitely rooted in those traditions, but the way the text presents it, the practices are universal. There's even mention of people from all sorts of faiths, Confucianism, Judaism, you name it. And they're engaging with these practices without having to abandon their existing beliefs.
So it's less about dogma and more about tapping into something that's a universal human experience.
Precisely. Whether you call it connecting with, well, a higher power, enlightenment, or just reaching your full potential, it's about having this profound shift in how you see yourself and the world. And that's something everyone can connect with.
I have to say, even with your expert guidance, this text keeps me on my toes. It feels like every other sentence is like, whoa, ancient symbolism alert.
Huh. I know what you mean. The secret of the golden flower can feel like a bit of a jungle, that's for sure. And, even with all the commentary, separating those core practices from the cultural stuff, it's not always easy.
Which is why you're here. All right, so one thing that pops up a lot is this idea of the celestial mind.
Hmm.
Sounds pretty, well, celestial.
Yeah.
What's the deal with that? How is that different from, like, my everyday mind?
Great question. Okay, imagine for a second your everyday mind is, I don't know, like a little monkey swinging from thought to thought, distracted by every little thing, right? That's what they call the ordinary mind, the celestial mind. Now that's more like a still, clear lake. It's that part of us, it's just pure awareness, totally undisturbed by, the messiness of thoughts and emotions and all that.
Okay, yeah, I can see the difference. So how do we tap into that?
Hmm.
That still lake inside us? Because let's be real, most days my mind is more like that monkey after a triple espresso.
Right. Well, the text has this cool metaphor. It says to think of the celestial mind like a house, and the light of your awareness is, what is it, the master of the house.
I'm picturing like a cozy house, nice lighting, fireplace.
I love it. So now imagine your attention, it's like that light, right? But instead of shining inward, it's going outward. It's on everything outside, all the distractions of the world. So turning the light around, that's the practice of gently guiding that light back to its source, back to the celestial mind.
Interesting. So instead of like chasing after all the external stuff, we're focusing on what? The observer, the one who's experiencing it all. Okay, I get that, but how do you actually do that?
Well, that's where the actual practice comes in. And it starts with something surprisingly simple, the breath.
Here we go with the breath work. I've tried those meditation apps, right? They're always like, focus on your breath, focus on your breath. My mind is like, did I take out the trash? What was that weird dream I had last night?
Oh, it's so common. Our minds just love to wander. But the secret of the golden flower, it's not about like forcing the breath or anything, or even trying to like stop thoughts altogether. It's more about, think of it like using your breath as an anchor for your attention.
An anchor. So we're throwing our attention a lifeline in the middle of, like, the ocean of thoughts.
Yes, that's it. The text, it talks about paying attention to all the little sensations of the breath, the coolness of the inhale, the warmth of the exhale, all of it. But without getting swept away by those thoughts that, let's face it, they're going to pop up.
So it's not about emptying our minds, really. It's more like we're just shifting our focus to something, well, more stable, something present in the middle of all that mental noise.
You've got it. And this is actually where we get to another cool concept from the text, this idea that there are two spirits inside each of us, the original spirit and the conscious spirit.
Two spirits. Okay, this is where I feel like I need a whiteboard, maybe a diagram. Break that down for me.
Totally. So think of the original spirit as, remember that still lake we talked about? That's it. It's your true essence, pure awareness, the whole deal. Unchanging, eternal. It's the master of the house. It's the source of that inner light.
Sounds pretty powerful. And the conscious spirit, is that our everyday, like, monkey mind self?
You could say that. It's the part that's shaped by, well, everything we experience. Our thoughts, our emotions, everything. It's a part that, yeah, can be a little reactive, a little all over the place.
So we've got this, like, wise, eternal spirit within, and then there's, our everyday mind, which can be a little, shall we say, less than wise sometimes. So how do they, like, work together, these two spirits?
It's the million-dollar question. The text uses this really vivid image. It says that humans, we're like mayflies compared to the vastness of the way.
Mayflies? Wow. Talk about putting things into perspective. Don't those little guys only live for, like, what is it, a day?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And that's the point. Our everyday stuff, all the drama, the things we get caught up in, that's our conscious spirit talking. And it's often as fleeting as, well, a mayfly. But the original spirit, that's like the vastness of the way itself. It endures. It doesn't change. It's always there.
Okay, I think I see where this is going. So the real challenge is to connect with that part of ourselves, that original spirit, right? Even amidst, well, all the mayfly business of our everyday life.
Exactly. And this practice, this turning the light around, that's one way to bridge that gap, to shift our focus from, the mayfly to the way, so to speak.
I love that. Connecting with the vastness of the way, right. That's way more inspiring than, like, empty your mind, which, by the way, half the meditation apps, that's all they say. But okay, so how does turning the light around actually work? Like, in practice, is it really just about remembering to, like, focus on your breath?
Well, it sounds simple, sure, but anything worthwhile takes a little, time.
Yeah.
Dedication. Think of it like, I don't know, learning an instrument. At first, you're just trying to get the basic techniques down.
Yeah.
But the real magic, that's when you can really play, right? With feeling, with nuance.
Okay, I like that. So our instrument is, what, the breath. And our practice space is those moments when we actually remember to, turn inward. But what about, like, the actual playing? How do we know if we're even doing it right?
The secret of the golden flower, it's not really about right or wrong. It's more about cultivating a certain quality of attention, just a gentle awareness of whatever's happening inside. And the text, it assures us that with practice, we'll start to experience, well, shifts in how we perceive things.
Ooh, now that's interesting. What kind of shifts are we talking about here? Because let's be real, I think we could all use a little perceptual upgrade in our lives.
Absolutely. So the text, it mentions 3 authenticating experiences that might pop up as we practice. And the first one is called hearing from afar. Have you ever had those moments, and I'm sure you have, where sounds, they almost seem to become, like, distant, but also crystal clear, like you're hearing them with, I don't know, a new set of ears?
Actually, yeah, it's funny you say that. Sometimes when I'm out walking, in nature and things get really quiet, it's like the sounds, the birds, the wind, they just take on this, like, whole other dimension. It's pretty amazing.
There you go. See? That heightened awareness, being able to hear those subtle nuances, that's one sign that you're shifting inward towards that celestial mind.
Okay, cool. So that's one experience. What about the other 2?
All right. So the second one they describe is, get this, body like silk or jade.
Okay.
Yeah. Basically this feeling of, like, lightness, energy flowing through your body. It's like all that tension, that heaviness we carry around, it just starts to, I don't know, dissolve.
Interesting. So it's not just mental, it's physical too.
Exactly. The mind and body, right. They're all connected. And then finally, the text mentions this idea of spontaneous upward soaring.
Now that sounds pretty intense.
Right. So it's this feeling of, like, expansion, lightness, like you're transcending the limits of, well, your everyday self, really.
Wow. So these are, like, next level experiences then.
They can be, but the text, it also reminds us not to get too, I don't know, attached to these experiences, even the blissful ones.
Right. Don't mistake the finger pointing at the moon for the moon itself, right?
There you go. Exactly. Think of them more like, I don't know, signposts. They're pointing us toward that vastness of the way, that true nature of the original spirit, but they're not the thing itself.
Well, this has been fascinating. I feel like we just scratched the surface here with the secret of the golden flower. But honestly, you've given me so much to think about. And more importantly, to practice.
My pleasure. Honestly, this text, it's a treasure, and I encourage you to keep coming back to it. Let those insights unfold, in their own time.
I definitely will. And for our listeners, I'm curious, have you had any of these like authenticating experiences? What helps you connect with that original spirit within? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And until next time, happy deep diving, everyone.